What's up, everyone? Charles Smith here with another story from my project in progress, Aesop the Athlete. This is a new collection of stories that is centered around the fables of Aesop. Some of my favorite stories that I enjoyed as a kid. There's a moral at the end of each story, and the stories are super short and feature animals. To update it, I decided to turn the animals into young athletes. Today's story is one of my favorite stories that I've written for this series, and it comes from football, and it's called The Roosters and the Eagle. So let's get to it. Wyatt Leghorn and Bobby Duckle were the two best wide receivers on the Roosters. They both had great hands, they both had quick feet, and they both loved to celebrate their touchdowns in style. They constantly tried to outdo each other in practice, until one day when they decided to raise the stakes. "All right, Wyatt," Bobby said. "It's easy for us to score on our own team because we practice all the time. I say we settle this in our next game. You up for a little bet?" "I don't know about that," Wyatt said. "A game is a lot different than practice." "What's the matter?" Bobby said. "You chicken? Buck, buck, buck!" "I'm not chicken," Wyatt squawked back. "What's the bet?" "Most touchdowns wins, and winner gets bragging rights as best receiver on the team." "Bet?" "Bet." When the Roosters stepped onto the field versus the Eagles, Bobby and Wyatt couldn't contain their excitement. As the players went through their warm-ups, they clapped and cheered and chattered and squawked and made a point of giving extra encouragement to their quarterback, Buff Orpington. "What's up with you two today?" Buff asked between throws. "Just want to have a good game," Wyatt said. "A great game," Bobby added. "I feel like I got a lot of catches in me today," Wyatt said. "I feel like I got a lot of touchdowns in me today," Bobby said. "Me too," Wyatt added. I get it now," Buff said. "You guys want the ball." "We always want the ball, Buff," Wyatt said. "But this is the Eagles," Bobby said. "So you're going to need your best weapon today, and that's me," they both said. "Oh, here we go," Buff said. "You two better not have some crazy touchdown celebration plan." "Come on, Buff," Bobby said. "It's nothing like that." "We just want to beat the Eagles, and the only way to do that is to throw me the ball," they both said. "You guys know I throw it to whoever's open," Buff said. "Get open, and I'll get it to you." "That's all we asked," they both said. The Eagles proved a formidable opponent, racking up 2 quick touchdowns and putting the Roosters in a 14-0 hole. But Buff and the Roosters didn't panic. Wyatt scored the first touchdown to put the Birds on the board, then Bobby followed with a catch just before halftime to tie the game. Of course, they didn't just score, they did it with style, and each celebration brought the crowd to their feet. Wyatt started it off, dancing his feet on the turf, then waving his arms up and down as he circled the ball. Not to be outdone, Bobby spun the ball on the ground, then hopped up and down while waving his arms. He finished it off by scratching his cleats near the ball with his hands on his hips. "More touchdowns, less dancing, please," Coach said as they jogged off the field for halftime. As the players sat in the locker room listening to Coach, Bobby and Wyatt sat in the back, checking in on their bet. "You looked good out there," Bobby said. "Why, thank you, Bobby," Wyatt said. "But not as good as me," Bobby whispered. "All right, Birds," Coach said. "Let's go out there and show these Eagles who rules the roost." The players raised their helmets in a cheer and took to the field. Wyatt and Bobby led the way, squawking at each other the whole time. "You going down, Leghorn," Bobby said. "Not before you, Duckle," Wyatt said. The second half began just as the first, with the Eagles scoring immediately. First on the kick return, and later with an interception off Buff Orpington that they returned for a touchdown. "Don't worry about that, Buff," Bobby said on the sidelines. "That wasn't your fault." He looked directly at Wyatt. "Of course it wasn't Buff's fault. It wasn't my fault either," Wyatt said, staring right back at Bobby. "Look," Buff said, "I told you guys, if you want the ball, just get open. But this defense is good, so you got to get some separation from your defender." "Got it, Buff," the Birds said. Wyatt and Bobby were true to their word, each getting wide open and scoring on a touchdown. Wyatt took a short pass and dodged every eagle on his way to the end zone, while Bobby caught a deep ball with a diving catch over two defenders. Once again, their celebrations brought the crowd to their feet. Bobby walked over to Wyatt and slung an arm over his shoulder. All right, Wyatt, you got two and I got two. Next touchdown can win us the game and give you or me bragging rights. I gotta admit, Wyatt said, this bet is bringing out the best in me. The Roosters took the field with Bobby lined up on the left and Wyatt on the right. Buff barked out the count and the ball was snapped. Bobby made a move on the left and shook his man free. Buff floated the ball just over an Eagle defender to Bobby, who caught it in stride. Bobby swiveled his head, saw no Eagles near him, put his head down and took off into the wide open field. The clock ticked away as Bobby got closer and closer to the end zone. He could see the white chalk marking the goal line. He could see his touchdown winning the game. He could see himself held up high by his teammates, but most of all, he could see himself as the best receiver on the Roosters. Me, Bobby Duckle, not Wyatt Leghorn. This calls for a celebration, Bobby thought, but not just any celebration. This had to be a celebration to end all celebrations. Bobby clutched the football in his right hand like Coach had told him not to on so many occasions. Tuck the ball in tight, Duckle, Coach would say. I don't want any turnovers. But there was Bobby, clutching the ball in his right hand, waving it back and forth as he high-stepped toward the end zone. Each leg kicked up like he was a drum major, and the ball was his baton. Bobby was so focused on high-stepping that he missed the Eagles swooping up behind him. A quick slap, and the ball popped free. Bobby spun around to see the Eagles scoop up the ball and take off in the other direction. His Rooster teammates gave chase, but the Eagle beat them to the end zone. The horn sounded, and all the Eagles swooped in to celebrate. They spread out across the end zone and did Bobby's high-stepping dance. Back and forth they danced, flapping their arms up and down and passing the ball around. Standing just in front of the opposite end zone, all Bobby Duckle could do was watch. The moral of the story is, pride goes before a fall. I hope you enjoyed that story. Make sure you check out the others from the Aesop the Athlete series. See you soon.